Well, I hated that Santa Fe Trail, thinking back so far back. How could I hate it? So many things that have happened since then, and I realized how I had placed my head on the chopping block for something that has seemed like it would be nothing but an adventure. Oh, an adventure it was. Well, by the time I was 10 years old, both of my parents had died of cholera. And I was raised by nearby Osage village. Now, Osage and a few Missouris mixed in with it, and I was raised with all of the compassion that you could expect from responsible families of any community, of any culture, anywhere. Well, then I heard about a man by the name of William. Now, William Becknell was his name, and I heard that he was looking for some young men and to go down to Santa Fe, Mexico. What an adventure it must have been. I gave that a little bit of thought. Only about a few seconds, I realized that he's going to pay a wage, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what a wage was. I wasn't sure where Santa Fe was, but I was going to find out. And a wage, I didn't know what it was. I figured I really needed one. How old was it? I never know. To this day, I don't know. So I made a teary-eyed farewell to my Osage community and my family who had raised me there, my adoptive parents, all in adopted culture. And they gave me a pony to send me on my way, dressed in buckskins, of course. And made it all the way to a little town called Franklin, Missouri. And there I met this Becknell fellow, and he put me to work right away. I told him, I'll be your hunter. And of course, I'd never seen a gun before. Mr. Becknell, I don't need a gun. If I can't feed everybody on your Santa Fe Trail with this bow I have at my side, then you won't owe me a wage, whatever that is. Well, we took off down that trail, and some of the adventure was gone the very first day with that hot dust blowing into my face like everyone else. And there were several others. We had, I don't know, 10 maybe wagons there, maybe a few more. I wasn't really into counting back then. And a lot of guys about my age, and I befriended one by the name of Flaherty, and he talked funny because he was Irish. Oh, did we find a deeply rooted friendship every day, sleeping on the ground with the rocks and the rapids. We didn't care as long as we had each other side by side on our mounts. And the days came and went, and the dust got hotter. And the adventure part of it was starting to kind of melt away. But our friendship became deeper and deeper. We had each other, and we talked about boyish things, whether with the girls in Ireland, the girls of the Osage and the Missouris, and all of these things that became more and more intense, the friendship. This was all of us. We were all quite friendly, but nothing like a friendship between Flaherty and me. When we finally made it down to Santa Fe, we made it to Santa Fe, and there we were in a different world. Santa Fe, Mexico. You understand that? This was a long time ago. Well, Captain Means, the military man, and Mr. Becknell, they were dealing with all the Mexicans and the trading and the bartering and this and that. We wanted nothing to do with that. We were just, that was none of our business. But we realized that there was a such thing in Mexico there called a cantina. And we had a few adventures there. We befriended some of the Mexican guys. We could hardly understand each other's language, but we were able to communicate. And these Mexican guys, good, lighthearted as they were, they decided that we Gringos needed a little education in their way since we were in their country. So they taught us a lesson called tequila. Don't do it. Don't do it. That's one of the things that the second thing I hated about the Santa Fe Trail. First was the dust, and then was the tequila. And a few more days came and went, and came and went. And one morning, Mr. Becknell said, "Turn them wagons around, men. We're headed back to the northeast. We're going home." And we were happy about that. We're going home. We're going home. Back to Missouri. There's no hot dust in Missouri. At least by my over-idealized ideas. We got the wagons ready to go, and they were hoisting up all these big bags of silver coins, Mexican silver, into the backs of the wagons. And here came the mayor of Santa Fe. The mayor of Santa Fe, he was a sharp guy. He spoke perfect English. And he said, "On your guys see any evidence of the Comanches? Look at each other. No. We knew we were in Comancheria, but with evidence, no. He said, well, you're going to find them when you go back. You guys better keep those guns loaded and your eyes open. Did you kill any animals? I mean, when Faraday would look that direction, I would watch this direction. All the rest of the guys. When the second day came, what did we do? Same thing. Nervous about first this and that and then that. And we were seeing Comanches in our imagination everywhere. And the days came and went, we weren't seeing any Comanches. And Faraday said, hey, Buckskin, they came to call. You think we're going to make it through here without seeing any Comanches? I said, don't ask me. I'm just the white boy raised by the Osage. I don't know nothing about the Comanches. A few more days came. What's that over there? I said, I looked at that. Come on, Flaherty. That's a Sahara cactus. You'll be all right. Just don't touch it. You'll be fine. A few more days came and went. And all of a sudden, we crested out. Flaherty and I were about halfway back on the wagon train there, and we crested out. And whoa, the heads went into the air. The whole wagon train came to a stop. And Flaherty and I looked at each other, and we galloped forward into the top of that hill, and then we looked down the other side, and what we saw on the other side was I couldn't count the number of Comanches that were down there. Get the picture of what I'm telling you now. Try to picture it in your mind. The Comanches were down there at the top of that hill, at the bottom of that hill, looking at us at the top of that hill, and we were at the top of that hill looking down at them, and we were all just kind of looking at each other. All of us were thinking, now what? Nobody knew quite what to think. Well, Captain Means was seated in the front board of that wagon on with Mr. Becknell, and Captain Means looked up at me because I was wearing moccasins and buckskins, looking up. Don't look at me, Captain. I don't know. They're Comanches. I was just a white boy raised by the Osage for about 8 years. I guess it was 8 years. All right. I'll show you what kind of guy Captain was. He was the real captain. I mean, he would think in logistical terms and tactical terms. He said, okay, we can't turn around and go back because they've seen us and they're not very happy. You can say that again, Captain. Okay, here's the only thing we can do. We're going to go down this hill. We're going to skirt the north edge of that Comanche hunter's camp. And when I give the cue, we're all going to raise our hands and smile like we're just so happy to see a whole bunch of angry Comanches right there. And we're going to wave and all these wonderful things we're going to do. And if anybody can think of anything better, Buckskin, he said to me, let's do it in some other way. You got the best idea, sir. I get to remember, I'm just the white boy raised by the Osage and the Missouris. So he gave the command, and all of our hearts were just pounding to try to now get the perspective of the Comanches. They could only see one wagon at the top of the hill there. So that wagon starts, and then another wagon, and another wagon. You're Comanche now, and you're nervous too. And then another, and another, and another. And you're getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And you're watching them coming. And then, okay, now here on our perspective, and now here we were, and here I were, all of us there, and then came the command. We started waving and smiling, and we were so happy to see all those Comanches there. But you wouldn't think that such a simple solution would actually solve the problem. But you know something? It didn't solve the problem. It didn't solve the problem where the yellow beams, they exploded in anger, and they filled the air with them, and they were slamming into the sides of wagons, into the sides of the animals here and there and here and there. On we went and on we went. You can't imagine how quickly you could make oxen move under heavily laden wagons and all these things. You can't imagine how fast you can make them move under pressure like that. And I was seeing riderless horses overtaking me, riding down the trail, and then more and more and more. I hear guys screaming, no, more and more. stop to help you. You just had, the only one thing we could do was go, 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 go. And then the sun started to set, and boy, it got dark quick. And we somehow got the wagons into a bit of a circle. We think it was a circle. We don't know for sure how dark it was. We stepped down and for our horses and the wagons, and we looked at each other, and they all came looking up to me. I could barely see their faces. Their eyes got used to the dark. I said, okay, men. I was thinking, I've got to show them I have certainty, that I understand the situation, that I'm in charge here, and none of that was true. I said, okay, man, I said with a deeper voice than I really had. By dawn, we'll all be dead. And we don't want to die like the Comanches want us to die. Now, Flaherty, he didn't make it, Buckskin. He said, I saw him fall from his horse, and there my whole facade of certainty just melted into tears. I placed my face in my hands. I fell to my knees, and I thought, come on, Buckskin, stand back up. And I did. I stood and I recovered somehow. Okay, men. Well, listen. In the silence, we could all hear the movement of our adversaries moving through that dry prairie grass until, on the far end, it closed the trap. And I was thinking of what I said. Was it true? That we don't want to die. And you heard that, didn't you? I couldn't see through the darkness if they were nodding their heads or not. We were trapped, man. I said, okay. And I was just making this up in my head as I was speaking. My thoughts were only a syllable ahead of what I was saying. And I said, okay, men, load up and mount up and get yourselves into a single file. A single file entry to it. Single file. And do what I do, whatever that's going to be. So I mounted that pony. Pointed the spear, looked back, and they seemed to be in single file. I said, go, men, go! And we took off out of there like a Missouri arrow, and we crashed right through that encirclement, and we could hear the Comanches out back there. We could hear them screaming and their astonishment and our audacity that we could do such a thing. And on we went, and on we went, and on we went into the dark. And we couldn't tell what was in front of us. It was a black curtain. We could be heading down to the nearest arroyo, down deep cliffs, and cactus, any kind of an obstacle, rocks. We had no idea it was there. If we died that way, we would be a lot better than dying like the Comanches wanted us to die. And on we went, and on we went, and on. Hammer, go, 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 go. Till the sun started to rise, and our horses were about dead. So their flanks were breathing, trying somehow to survive themselves. I looked back and I saw dust hanging in the air, and they all did what I did. And I slowed down, and there was a little creek there, and we let the horses water. And then the big obnoxious one came. There has to be one in every group, you know. And he approached me, and he looked at me as he was a Indian. And he said, them Comanches is coming, he said. Them savages is coming. And I placed a point right between his eyes. I said, they're not savages, and they're not coming. They got what they needed from us, which is us out of there. He fell silent and stepped backwards. He had been bested. Well, we remounted, all of us still trembling and numb, but it just happened. we just started moving towards the northeast, hardly speaking a word as we moved along. Hardly a word. Not feeling, not understanding, not believing. And then came the day that we crested out and we looked down to the blue-green beauty of the Missouri River and the green of Missouri on the other side. We crafted a simple little raft and rafted across the Missouri River with great difficulty. Of course, we made it up over the course of the time. And then a few days we went dragging into that little town of Franklin, Missouri. Dragging into that town, and we could see the people on the side looking at us in astonishment that anybody looking that bad could still be alive. And we sort of were diminished, but wiser. On the far side of little Franklin, Missouri, we came to a stop under a tree, big tree. And we stepped down and we placed our arms on each other's shoulders like the little band of brothers that we had become. And we tried crying and we tried praying. But nothing really helped us to feel better. Nothing except the soil of Sweet Home, Missouri under our feet. And that feeling the heart was still beating. Well, we parted company after that. I never saw any of them again. And I made it home to my little Osage village. My adopted parents, and I sat by the fire. Again, hardly a word was spoken. My mother placed her head on my shoulder, and somehow she knew. I didn't have to explain. How could she know what had just happened? Well, I think back on that Santa Fe trail. Yes, I'm wiser now. I'm not going back. But I think back also of the admiration that I feel for the tenacity of the trail travelers. Most of all, I admire the gallant Comanche. For all they wanted was what was theirs. The running back, the Santa Fe trail. Thank you. Tomorrow at 2:30, I'll have another story on the mountain men. Also not a real pretty story. All of my stories are based on actual events. And then on Sunday, I'll have an incident at Skull Creek. 2:30, right here.
Thank you very much.